Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. I've gotten a lot of questions lately on jerkbaits and ways to tune your jerkbait when out on the water to get it to float differently, whether that's to sink or to suspend or to sit differently in the water. So I've got a handful of tips for you as to how to easily do that on the water with things that you probably have in your boat already. Before I get into that, I do want to remind you that if you're looking to purchase tackle, hunting gear, outdoor gear, go over to my description, click on the link to therealshot.com. And if you end up purchasing anything, guys, use the discount code STEFAN10 to save 10% off your order. Helps the channel out, helps the local tackle shop out, and you guys save a little bit of money on your purchases. They have a great selection of fishing gear, hunting gear, a little bit of everything. Really good selection, so check them out, guys. All right, so we're moving into the later part of the fall, but it seems like we haven't really even started fall in most parts of the country. I mean, it's still, water temps are way above where I like to normally throw a jerkbait. So I'm assuming down south that bite is probably being pushed off too. But it'll be happening here probably shortly in the next few weeks is my guess. The temperatures are definitely starting to cool off a little bit. We are getting more fall-like temperatures, which means I will be heading out on the water to throw a jerkbait quite a bit. And a lot of you guys have reached out to me asking for ways to get their baits to run properly. Occasionally you'll get a jerkbait and you go out and you use it and it just seems like it's not getting deep enough, or it's not suspending right, or it's floating. Other times you'll be out on the water and you only have a couple of jerkbaits and they may be shallow runners and you want to get your bait deeper. So these are a few things that you can do to modify your baits. I carry, I've got a big jerkbait box here with me, and I carry all of this stuff in the box with my jerkbait so that if something happens or I need to alter my bait, I can do it quickly on the water. And all of these means have worked really well for me over the years. These are all things that I think are pretty well discussed amongst anglers. People seem like they favor one technique over the other. I can't say I've got a favorite technique, but I do have some, that I would recommend probably over the other, just in my opinion. So the first and one of the best things to do is and this is one thing you may not have in your boat, but if you have some lead wrap, you can use like solder as well. This is just lead wire, and this is two different sizes of it. This is a thin one, this one's a little thicker, so they weigh different amounts. But if I've got a jerkbait that is not suspending properly and it's floating, what I'll do is I'll finely wrap that wire around the shank of the treble hook and then mount that on the treble hook. So if I want my treble or my jerkbait, let's say it's just rising, I'll almost always put this just on the front treble hook because I feel like that's more of the place of neutral buoyancy, just because you've got your line on the front that's kind of trying to keep the nose of the bait up. So I'll put that on the first hook right here, and that'll usually end up working. That's usually all I need to do in order to get a floater to start suspending well, and you can adjust the amount of wrap to get it to sink, suspend, do whatever you want with it. So that's a really easy one to do, and I really do recommend trying to get some of this lead wire wrap, just because you can use it on a lot of different techniques to help you. If you want to put it on a crankbait treble hook to get you just a tad bit deeper, you can do it. You can wrap around the hooks on a frog to create a little bit more weight on the frog to help it push down through some of the mats you might be fishing. I find that I use it a lot more than I thought I would when I first purchased it. You can go to pretty much any hardware store and get that. So that's one of my favorite things to do, is just put that in the treble hook. Another simple technique that a lot of people like to do is to put a second split ring on. You can see I've got two split rings on right here. The thing with the two split rings that I like is that I think it does add a little bit of sound. I mean, the two split rings beaten against each other will add just a tad bit of sound, and it's not real overbearing. It doesn't provide bulk on the hooks, I do think, though, the one thing I don't like with the split rings is occasionally one of the split rings will get pushed off to the side or caught, which I think throws off the, uh, it can throw off the direction that the bait's running. So if it does get kind of stuck or pushed up to the side, you might find that your bait starts running off to the left or to the right. And it's real easy to fix. You just correct it. But occasionally you will get a split ring that gets stuck up in a certain position, which can throw off that direction of the bait. But again, another really easy fix and something that you can do simply on the water by taking the split ring off another bait if you don't carry spare split rings. So that's another simple way to adjust it. I would also add that, this works great to just, if you have a floating bait, just to add a little bit of weight to make it suspend again. And what I find with this is you can if one doesn't work, you can add one in the middle hook. And then if that doesn't work, you can add one on the back hook to get it to float at the same level that the bait was originally floating. When I say floating, I'm talking suspending or sitting in the water. The next, if you can find them, guys, another easy way to adjust the weight, and this is not a jerk bait, this is a wiggle ward, but this is a suspending wiggle ward. If you can find some of the lead suspend strips like this, you can get the dots or the strips. Storm used to make them. I'm not sure if anyone else makes them currently. I know you can still buy them off places like eBay. That's another really simple way to do it. You just stick them on, make sure your bait is dry before you do it. The one thing I don't like about them is they will fall off on you. So it's something where you might find you're fishing with it and all of a sudden your bait starts floating again, or you're not getting as deep as you thought. A lot of times that suspend dot falls off. So it's a simple, super fast way to do it. It's probably the worst in terms of longevity. The next, guys, is to simply add a different size treble hook. So these are size 6. These are just the basic Katsuge hooks that come on the Megabass. But if I were to switch over to, say, these Fusion 19, this is a size 4, so one step bigger, round bend. I would put one larger hook on the front treble hook, again, is where I like to go. But there are, depending on the jerk baits, you may have to move the weight all over the place. Not all jerk baits sit the same in the water, but another simple way is to add that bigger hook. That's probably my least favorite way to do it, just because personally, I don't like the way it looks in the water. I like my bait to look somewhat uniform. So if I've got a bigger hook here and 2 smaller hooks, it looks off to me. And I'm probably just overthinking that, but it's a visual thing for me. And like I say all the time, guys, confidence is key. And if I don't feel confident in the way my bait looks, then I don't usually do it. But I do know a lot of guys do that, where they'll throw on a bigger treble hook to get their bait to run differently. The other thing I'll point out with almost all of these different ways to weight your jerk bait is that you can use it as well to keep your bait suspending. But if you want to float your bait nose down, or you want to float it tail up, you can definitely do that as well. Personally, I like my bait usually to sit either completely level or slightly tilted nose down. What most people don't realize is if you're dealing with a dying shad, when shad die, they don't float to the surface first. Generally, they go to the bottom, and the reason they float up is because they decompose, creating gases in their body, which float the fish. So when the fish first die, they die going to the bottom. So personally, I'd rather have my bait sitting, facing, not down like that, but maybe at a slight angle. I also think that helps get your bait to dive a little deeper. If it's sitting there when you go to initially jerk it, it's already in the right position to dive deeper. So those are ways, guys, that you can quickly alter a jerk bait on the water. Everything there, other than the solder or the lead wire, you probably already have in your boat to make that quick fix. But I do recommend trying to get some of that lead wire, just because you will use it on other techniques. So, guys, I hope that was helpful. If it was, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for tomorrow's tips and tricks.